Let's do IXL Geometry T.7. Go to Learning, go down to Geometry. Make sure you're on Math, by the way, and go to T7, Volume of Spheres. Okay, before we answer these questions, let's go over to Frydman Math, and we see that volume is on page 12. So we will go down to page 12. Here it is, and here's the volume section. And over here in this little corner, we have a sphere, which is like a basketball. It's the three-dimensional analog to a circle. It's like a circle, but in 3 dimensions. And the volume of a sphere is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. That is the number 4/3, the fraction 4/3, times pi times the radius of the sphere to the 3rd power. So that means the radius times the radius again times the radius again. So we're actually multiplying the radius with itself 3 times. Now, if you ask where does this formula come from, explaining where this formula comes from is really the easiest way to do it is by using calculus, and calculus is something that you may learn in high school, but you're not going to learn it in middle school. So you're just going to have to take my word for it. You're just going to have to trust me that to find the volume of a sphere, you have to do 4/3 times pi times the radius of the sphere cubed. So, and that tells you, remember, what does volume mean? If you use this formula, then what you're actually figuring out is how many of these little cubes, where each cube is 1 unit long and 1 unit wide and 1 unit high, how many of these little cubes can fit inside of this sphere. That's what the formula 4/3 pi r cubed tells you. Okay, so now let's do some problems. What is the volume of this sphere? So let's write our volume formula for a sphere. The volume formula is 4/3 times pi times the radius to the 3rd power, or cubed. All right, now we are told that the radius is 4 yards, and that's really all the information that we need to find the volume of the sphere. So we'll just plug 4 in for the radius. So now we have the volume is equal to, and I'm going to, instead of writing 4/3 just like that, I'm going to put the 4 here, and then I'm going to put all of it over. Well, you know what? I won't do that. I'll do that in the next step. I don't want to confuse anybody yet. So we have 4/3 times pi, which is 3.14, times 4, because the radius was 4. But then we also have to remember this exponent of 3. So that's to the 3rd power. Now, another way of writing all of this, and that's what I was talking about a minute ago, instead of writing 4/3 in the front, you can also write it this way. You can do 4 times 3.14 times 4 to the 3rd power all over 3 like that. So instead of writing it this way, you're writing it with the 4 in the numerator and the 3 in the denominator. And this whole thing is actually equivalent to this. I wrote it this way because it makes it clearer what you're going to put into the calculator. So now let's get our calculators, and we're just going to type all of this in. So we have 4 times 3.14 times 4 to the 3rd power means 4 times 4 times 4. Okay, and then we're going to divide all of that by 3. And this says that we should round our answer to the nearest hundredth. So here's the decimal point. 2 spaces after that, here is the hundredths place. So 4 is in the hundredths place, and that's what I call the rounding digit. And then the next digit over is the decision digit. Remember, if your decision digit is a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, then the rounding digit stays the same. If the decision digit is a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, then the rounding digit gets bumped up by 1. So this is a 6, which means that this should get bumped up by 1. So the answer will actually be 267.95. And that's it. Okay, this problem looks to be the same. So let's do another problem like this. The volume is equal to 4/3 times pi times the radius cubed. So the radius is 10. So let's plug 10 in here. So we get volume equals 4/3, and pi is 3.14, at least the approximation that we're using. And we also have to put the exponent of 3 here. So this is the same as 4 times 3.14 times 10 to the third all over 3. And now we just plug that into the calculator. Nice and easy. 4 times 3.14 times, remember, 10 to the third power means 10 times 10 times 10. And then we're going to divide all of that by 3, and we get this. So this is our rounding digit. Remember, here's the decimal point. So 1, 2, that's the hundredths place. We are rounding to the nearest hundredth. And the next digit over is the decision digit. So if this digit is a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, then this stays the same. If this one is a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, then this gets bumped up by 1. So we will be bumping this up by 1 because this digit is a 6. So this gets bumped up by 1. So the answer is going to be 4,186.67. Okay. What's the volume of this sphere? Okay, this is exactly the same. Remember, if IXL gives you the distance from the center to the outside, then that's the radius, so you should use that number. If it gives you the distance all the way across, then that would be the diameter, so you would have to cut that in half to get the radius. But for this problem, it just gave us the radius, so that's easy. So that's like the 2 problems that we just did a moment ago. So I'm going to skip to the next level and see if there are any different kinds of problems in this skill. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so this is what I was just talking about. This time, IXL gave us the distance all the way across the sphere. So that means that this 28 over here is the diameter. It's not the radius. Remember, here it is. The diameter goes all the way across. The radius, which is what we need in the volume formula. Sorry, I erased the volume formula. But anyway, to find the radius, you have to take the diameter and divide it by 2, because the radius is half as big as the diameter. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to take this diameter and divide it by 2 to get the radius. which is 14. So that means the distance from here to here is 14 inches. That's the radius, so that's what we're going to use in our volume formula. So we have the volume equals 4/3 times pi times the radius cubed. So we have 4/3 times 3.14 times 14 to the third power. And this is the same as 4 times 3.14 times 14 to the third power, all over 3. So now we're going to plug that in to the calculator. 4 times 3.14 times 14 times 14 times 14 equals that, divided by 3 equals that. Okay, so remember, this is here's the decimal. 2 spaces after the decimal gives us this, so that's the hundredths place. Remember, we're rounding to the nearest hundredth. The next digit over is the decision digit, which is a 3 here, which means we're going to keep our rounding digit the same. So the answer is going to be 11,488. Excuse me for one moment. Sorry about that. So we have 11,488.21. Just double check. 1,000. Yeah. Submit. Brilliant. Okay. All right, so here's another problem where we are given, notice over here, we are given the diameter again. So the diameter is going all the way across, or the dotted line is going all the way across. So that tells us that that dotted line is the diameter. So what we would need to do is we would need to take this 2 over here and divide it by 2, and that would give us 1. So, oh, I almost had that. So the radius is actually just 1 inch. So what would change over here? Everything over here would stay the same, except this is just 1. Okay, so let's plug that in here. So we have 4 times 3.14, and then we have times 1 times 1 times 1, which is actually not going to do anything. So times 1 again, times 1 again. You can see that the answer is just, it always stays 12.56. If we just multiply by 1, that doesn't change it. But then at the end, we'll divide by 3, and we get this. So here is our rounding digit, and here is our decision digit. So that's a 6, which means this should get bumped up by 1. So that'll be 4.19. Remember, if you don't remember how to round, you can take a look at the reference pages. I have rounding on page 1. Let me erase this. Rounding is over here on page 1. Here's rounding, and here is place value also. So you can take a look at that if you forgot how to round. Just a quick review. Okay, this is the same as the last problem, so I'm going to jump to the next level. I actually think they're all the same here. Yeah, so this is the same also. It's maybe 132. Maybe that's a bigger number than we've seen, but it's not really any, going through the problem is not different. So I'm going to jump to the next level again. Okay, so this problem is really also the same, except it's in words. So you have to pay attention. You have to read these. When it gives you a word problem, read the word problem. This says a sphere has a diameter of 22 feet. Diameter. That's important. Remember. This is the diameter, which is not what we want for the volume formula. So if we were to draw a picture of this sphere here, well, I'll try to make it look sort of three-dimensional. I'm not doing a very good job. Let me try that again. Okay, so it's telling us that the diameter is 22 feet. That means this is going all the way across here. That's 22 feet, but that's not what we want. We want the radius, which should only be halfway, which means we have to do 22 and divide that by 2 to get 11. So this over here is 11. That's the radius. That's what we want for the volume formula, because remember, the volume formula has radius r in it, not diameter. So this diameter, this would be d over here. D is not in the volume formula. We want r for radius. So we're going to plug in 11. And the rest is just the same. I've done this, how many times have I done this in this video so far? A bunch of times already, right? So let's just do this question and see if we get a different kind of question on the next one. If not, then I'll end the video there. 4 times 3.14 times, everything's getting all messy, times 11 times another 11 times another 11, because that's being raised to the third power, equals, and then divided by 3. Okay, 5,572.45. This 3 means that this 5 should stay the same. So 5,572.45. Remember, you have to pay attention to what it says here. If it said that this is the diameter, then you need to divide it by 2 to find the radius. If it says that this is the radius, then you don't have to do anything. Then you just plug it into the formula. Okay, so we're getting another problem where we are given the diameter and we have to find the volume. So that's the same as the last one. I'm going to end the video there. Remember to read the words before you do the problem. If it says diameter, divide it by 2 first. If it says radius, just plug it in over here. And that's that. Hope that was helpful. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, and have a great day.